stuff. All right, let's talk about offensive tackle. I have to say, I was surprised that the Eagles had not picked up an offensive tackle in the first 2 picks. Not because of the way the board fell. I wouldn't have chose differently. I know why it happened, but I really thought they were going to go higher. I think in multiple previous podcasts, I had the Eagles picking an offensive tackle or offensive lineman, specifically Paris Johnson Jr. I'm going to have to keep an eye on his career now. I feel a little bit tear in my eye. I really saw him arriving at the Birds.
Emotional connection with him now.
Yeah, a bit of emotional connection. I wanted another city name in the team with Paris there. And
the Paris Dallas
Boston. Yeah, exactly. Paris Dallas Boston. So I was
such a bizarre reason to want to try.
That wasn't the reason. It was kind of a nice little, a little Bo Wolf kind of nod to it, like a weird reason. No, it was I was hoping to see them pick him up, but I have to say, having done some research since the pickup and going back and thinking about some of the comments that Howie Roseman specifically made on the New Heights podcast, Phil, I think you brought this up a few weeks ago, actually. The Eagles have picked with pick number 65, Tyler Steen, offensive lineman from Alabama. And before I go any further, Mick, I think during the next college season, Alabama, Georgia, maybe a bit of Oklahoma. Let's just do a lot of recon on these 3 teams because the Eagles are picking from these squads. I think Howie also mentioned, I'm going on a little Irish segue here. Howie also mentioned that he's fed up of not picking any Florida Gators, and it's eating him up inside, picking up all these Georgia boys. He did get one towards the end of the round, which we'll get to. But listen, talk to me about Steen, because since the pick went through, I've been feeling very, very good about this pick because he's 6'6", 321 pounds. A lot of Lane Johnson kind of physical attributes, which are similar to the pickup. He is from Arizona. Sorry, there was a trade. The Eagles received pick 65 from Arizona in exchange for pick 94 and a 2024 fifth round pick, which we picked up from the tampering in the hire of Jonathan Gannon. Maybe we'll get to that in a little bit. He had 4 seasons prior to 4 seasons at Vandy before he transferred to Alabama, and he started all 13 games at left tackle for Alabama, protecting Bryce Young, who of course was the number 1 overall pick in this draft. He was projected to go in the 4th round, scooped up at the end of the 3rd, which is where the Eagles picked him up. And he's the latest enrollee at the Stoutland University, which is something I'm really excited about. And when I mentioned a second ago about what Howie said in the New Heights podcast, Jesse Kelsey podcast, he felt comfortable that Stoutland could pick up a offensive lineman in the 6th or 7th round. He's probably exaggerating a little bit there, what they did with Jordan Mailata. They're not going to do that every time, but he's confident that Stoutland can pick up a offensive tackle in a later round with the physical traits and turn them into a starting caliber offensive lineman, whether it's right guard, whether it's left tackle, right tackle. They won't need a left tackle. Let's hope he could transition to right tackle. And that's exactly what they've done. They've picked up a guy who wasn't a top of the line draft prospect. You could make the argument that a lot of top of the line draft prospects already had the physique and the technique. Ergo, you don't necessarily need to spend that draft capital when you have someone like Stoutland to teach them up. So I think it's probably obvious. I've come round to this actually being one of my most exciting pickups in the draft. You're going to laugh at me. Why aren't you saying D tackle? Why aren't you saying defensive edge? I really value the offensive line. I think it's a huge part of why the Eagles are successful, and it's a huge part of enabling Jalen Hurts to be successful in his run game and the running back by committee that we have. Maybe I'm going to do segments on Steen all year like I did on Jalen last year. But I'm just really excited to see what this guy can do. He can come in and learn from the best that there is around the Eagles organization, both from the coaches and the players. And we'll see where he can move around and impact this year towards the end of the season. And next year could be a potential replacement for Lane Johnson that we're looking, and we don't need to spend a high draft capital value next year. Mick, just initial thoughts on am I being overly enthusiastic about this guy? Should I tamper down my expectations a little bit, or were you likewise happy to see the Eagles draft Tyler Steen?
You calm down. That's not a thing, is it? I've never been able to tell you to calm down ever since I've known you, Liam. That's not a thing.
That's not me. That's fair.
That's not you. Be excited. Be very excited. Because this is the time to be excited. We're a roster that just went to the Super Bowl, picking up incredible talent from a draft, and if that's not enough to get excited, then you're following the wrong sport, because this is exactly what you should be excited about. Picking up guys, as you mentioned, from Alabama, from Georgia, the SEC, the top two teams in the nation. There's a reason why all these players get drafted year on year on year. They're in double digits, the amount of players, prospects that get drafted from both of these programs, and it's because of the pro-style offenses, the pro-style defenses that they arrange. Like people like Nick Saban, like Kirby Smart, they're bringing these kids essentially from the age of 17, and they're working them and they're working them and they're working them. And they're NFL ready when they come into the league already. They don't really need to sit for a year or sit for 2 years and get up to NFL speed most of the time. Of course, there's obviously a learning curve of some sort, but the best position to be in is coming out of one of those two programs. As well as a couple more, like Notre Dame and
who? Sorry,
who? Never mind. I had to just get that in there. But no, I can't say I knew a lot about Tyler Steen before coming into the draft. It's just I trust Stoutland. Essentially, that's what it boils down to at the end of the day. If we have drafted an offensive,
he was happy when we drafted him
you
as well.
You can bet your arse that Stoutland has fucking nipped Howie in the ear for about half an hour before the pick was coming. Like, draft Tyler Steen. You need to draft Tyler Steen. I'll tell you why. I'll give you 1,000 reasons, and then made him watch tape on his phone and shit like that. Just like, Howie, this is the guy that you need to draft it. And he probably relented. Just like, you know what, Stout, you've got your guy. And I'm sure that's the way it's played out in my head. I'd like to think that's the way it did go.
I'm loving like the I'm visualizing in that in my mind. And to be honest, like, Stoutland's the kind of guy that will do that. He'll be all over Howie, like, you need to draft this guy right now. I guarantee you, playoff runs, championship visits, you get me this guy. We don't need to spend draft capital next year. I can train him up. He's ready to go. Let's go. I can imagine.
Oh yeah, there was a story. I can't remember where I heard it, but it was something like, Stout was trying to get Howie into the film rooms, like watch 10 more snaps, watch 20 more snaps of this guy or that guy, and Howie's like, I need to go to my son's little league game, and Stout's like trying to drag him into the film room, and I love all that. It's fantastic. But I mean, Tyler's a guy. You've already explained. He played at right tackle for a full season at Vanderbilt. And then he played at left tackle as well. So he's got that ability to play both sides, swing tackle. They're talking about his arm length is a little bit undersized, so it might translate more to a guard position. Where do we have an empty spot just now? Right guard.
Exactly. Perfect.
So that's maybe one of the camp battles that we can go on to talk about during this off season, whether it's going to be Tyler Steen or Cam Jurgens.
Yeah, and
am I right? I'm thinking that.
Sorry, Phil. Go on. That was my bad.
No, sorry. I think I was a bit out of sync there. Am I right in saying that he was started out as a defensive player and then transferred across to the offensive line, or is that someone else I'm thinking of and that we picked? Because I've listened to so many podcasts today that I might be getting players. But I think I was listening to I think it might have been the Ringer podcast saying that he was
he was a defensive end at Vanderbilt University for 4 games in 2000.
So he's mastered not just along the offensive line, but he mastered obviously defensive line as well. So he's a guy of many talents, and you just know, like you said, Stoutland's got his eye on him, seeing the high level of versatility. We were never going to take one of our first 2 picks. I'm convinced of that on the offensive line, just because of the quality that we've got in the coaching to bring.
Yeah, I'll hold my hands out. I was wrong. I was wrong on that.
I just couldn't see it happening. Apart from that, would have been the situation where, say, Bijan's gone, and Carter were gone, and Parrish was there. It's like, got the best player available. But even then, we'd be sat here going, we probably could have got someone later on. Did we need really to go for Parrish? We could have traded back and got picks. But anyway, that's going into another tangent, but no, I don't know an awful lot about it. Before I've heard from people talking about it so far is that once they picked him and they started doing the tape, they realised that this guy's pretty special.
For most teams, it's not a sexy pick, but for the Eagles, when they have Stoutland and we have the offensive line, it is a sexy pick.
He is probably the most valuable coaching asset we have above all others, just in general, because of the ability that it gives you, or the flexibility it gives you in the draft, or whoever you take on. You can pick up people's leftovers, people's seconds if you want to, and turn them into Super Bowl caliber players. What I'm saying,
there's a game we need to play. How can you rank? How do you rank Howie Roseman, Jeff Stoutland, Nick Sirianni, or Jalen Hurts in the importance for Eagles' success in the future? That's a little drafting game we should maybe do at one point in time.
You know what made me think about there? It was are you familiar with the Marvel films?
Yeah, absolutely. I love the Marvel films.
And they say, we've got a Hulk.
Yeah.
We've got a Stoutland.
We've got a Stoutland. Yeah. I love that. That's also made me think, like, there's the 5 gems he needs.
Infinity Stones.
Infinity Stones.
You said you were a fan, Liam.
I'm a fan. Sorry, it's been a long day. I'm having a gin. All right, give me a break. The Infinity Stones. Maybe like Jalen Hurts is one of the Infinity Stones. Nick Sirianni is one of the Infinity Stones. Howie Roseman, Jeff Stoutland. Who's the 5th Infinity Stone? Who knows? Jason Kelsey, perhaps.
Off-season content. We'll come up with the 5 each, and then we'll do it, right?
Yeah, exactly. I like it. It's a good idea. I'm all over it. I'm in. I'm sold.